God is always watching over us. He watches over us when we're old. He watches over us when we're young. He watches over us everywhere in between. But today, we want to remember a special story when God is watching over a special child when he is just a little baby. Our story today takes place in the land of Egypt, the land of the Nile River. If you remember, this is where Joseph was sent when his brothers sold him into slavery. Maybe you don't remember, but Joseph's brothers followed him to Egypt later when there was a famine in the land. And God worked through Joseph not only to save his own family, but to save all of the land of Egypt. But now, 400 years later, there's a new king, a new Pharaoh who doesn't remember Joseph. But what the Pharaoh sees is the Israelites continuing to grow stronger, to multiply, to fill the land, and he sees that God is blessing them. So the Pharaoh is getting concerned, and he calls two women in to talk to. These women are midwives. Midwives are special people who help mommies have babies. And the king had an evil plan for them. The king told the midwives that when baby boys were born, they were to kill them. The midwives did not like this. They refused to do it. They told the king that they just couldn't get there fast enough because the Israelite women had their babies so fast. So these women were faithful, but the king continued his evil plot. And he told all of the Egyptians to kill every baby boy born to the Hebrews. Well, let me tell you about this couple. They were Israelite parents. They were Levites. They were from the priestly tribe, and they had a little baby, a baby boy. And they looked at their baby boy, and they saw that he was good, and he was precious, and they hid him for weeks in their home. But finally, as they had to go back to work in the fields, the only thing they knew to do to hide their baby was to put him in a basket, a little ark, and hide him in the Nile River. Now, when the mother and the father went off to work, they left their baby hiding in a basket in the river. But someone was there watching over him. Who do you think that was? And eventually, someone else found him. Someone else came to the river. Someone came to the river to bathe, to be cleaned. It was the Pharaoh's daughter. And the Pharaoh's daughter heard the cries of the little baby. And she went and she drew the baby out of the basket. And she named him Moses, because Moses means to draw out. Well, she saw the little girl. You remember the little girl. And the little girl said, "Would you like me to find someone to nurse the baby?" Pharaoh's daughter said yes. And that little girl, the baby's sister, took Moses back home, and Moses stayed with his family, probably for a couple of years. And for a couple of years, Moses grew up with his mom and his dad, and they taught him all about God. But then as he got a little older, they returned Moses to Pharaoh's daughter. And so from the time he was a little boy Moses lived in the palace of the Pharaoh. I wonder, why was the Pharaoh's daughter so favorable to Moses? I wonder how God saved Moses in these horrible circumstances. I wonder what plans God has for Moses' life. Most of all, I wonder what plans God has for your life, because I know He is watching over you. And I pray throughout this week you will know that God is there, watching over you and smiling because of the great plans He has for your life.